Batman's real superpower isn't the gadgets or the bank account, it's his compulsive need to build a family around his own trauma. Every person on this list exists because one man couldn't process grief like a normal human being. So today we're breaking down every member of the Bat family, kicking things with the man who started it all, Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne watched his parents get gunned down in Crime Alley as a kid, and instead of going to therapy, he declared a one-man war on crime, trained himself to peak human perfection, mastered every martial art worth knowing, became the world's greatest detective, and slapped a no-kill rule on top like a cherry on the world's most aggressive Sunday. But here's the thing, Batman's most defining trait isn't any of that. It's that he cannot stop adopting traumatized children. Starting with Dick Grayson in 1940, Bruce has repeatedly pulled damaged kids into his crusade, trained them, armed them, and sent them into Gotham's worst nights. The comics can't decide if he's building a found family or running a child soldier program. Every other Bat family member's story is either a variation on his trauma or a direct response to it. He's the origin point that makes everyone else possible, but his first experiment in fatherhood? That's where things get really interesting. Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson is the proof of concept. He's the kid Bruce took in after watching his parents, the Flying Graysons, get murdered by mobster Tony Zuko, who sabotaged their trapeze ropes. First appeared in Detective Comics number 38 back in 1940, the original Robin. And here's the thing, he's the one who actually came out the other side. Okay, he grew up, left the nest, became Nightwing in the 1980s because he needed to be his own person. Relocated to Blüdhaven as its primary protector, he's even worn the Batman cowl himself after Final Crisis, partnering with Damian Wayne as his Robin. And readers noticed something interesting. His Batman was warmer, more approachable, more human. Dick functions as the eldest child of this whole operation. He mediates conflicts between Bruce and everyone else. He's the emotional glue, and he's frequently cited as Bruce's most natural successor. His acrobatic fighting style is distinct. His emotional resilience is almost annoying, and he's genuinely the most well-adjusted of the Bat children. He processed his trauma without letting it eat him alive, which, in this family, is basically a superpower. But if Dick is the golden child who proved the model works, the next person on this list is the one who made the model possible in the first place, Alfred Pennyworth. Here's the thing about Alfred. He's a former actor, former military man, former intelligence operative, depending on which continuity you're reading, who somehow ended up as the most important person in a house full of people who punch criminals while dressed as flying mammals. He debuted in Batman number 16 back in April 1943, though he also showed up in a Batman serial script and newspaper strip that same year, making his exact origin this weird cross-media chicken and egg situation that nobody can fully untangle. But none of that matters as much as what he actually does. Alfred stitches stab wounds at 3 a.m., cooks breakfast for traumatized child soldiers, manages a billion-dollar estate, and still finds time to deliver the most devastating one-liners in DC Comics. He has zero powers. He wears zero capes. And yet, when DC killed him off in recent comics, the entire Bat family fell apart. Every single member destabilized, because Alfred isn't just the butler. He's the load-bearing wall of the entire operation. Remove him, and the house collapses, which is, not ideal for a family whose next member would redefine what it means to wear the Bat, Barbara Gordon. Barbara Gordon is two legendary heroes in one person, and both of them changed comics forever. She first showed up in Detective Comics number 359 in January 1967, created specifically to boost the Batman TV series, and from day one, she was different. Daughter of Commissioner Gordon, a librarian by trade, she just decided to put on a costume and fight crime. Nobody recruited her. Nobody trained her. She just showed up. Then the Joker shot her through the spine in The Killing Joke, and what happened next is one of the most meaningful character transitions in comics history. Instead of disappearing, Barbara became Oracle, a wheelchair-using hacker and information broker who ran intelligence for Batman, the Birds of Prey, and half the DC universe. She went from punching criminals to being the smartest person in every room, coordinating entire superhero networks from behind a screen. More powerful through intellect than she ever was through fists. Then, the New 52 gave her legs back, and the fanbase split in half. One side celebrated Batgirl's return. The other side argued you just erased decades of disability representation that actually mattered, which is, not a debate with a clean winner. But if Barbara's story is about what happens when a hero's body changes, but their mind refuses to quit, the next entry is about what happens when a hero's body just stops breathing entirely. Jason Todd DC. Comics let its readers vote on whether a child would live or die, and they chose death by 72 votes. Jason Todd showed up in 1983 as a Dick Grayson photocopy, But after the Crisis reboot, writers gave him a new origin, a streetwise kid from Crime Alley who tried to steal the tires off the Batmobile. Bruce caught him and thought, yeah, I should give this angry child weapons. Which is, not ideal. But here's where it gets insane. By 1988, readers hated Jason. He was reckless, angry, hard to root for. So DC set up two 900 numbers and let fans call in to decide his fate. 5,243 voted to kill him. 5,021 voted to spare him. A margin so thin that a few dozen people choosing to watch TV instead would have rewritten Batman history entirely. The Joker beat him to death with a crowbar, and Bruce's guilt defined the next decade of stories. Jason stayed dead for 17 years. Then he came back as Red Hood, looked Bruce in the face, and asked the one question Batman can never answer. Why is the Joker still alive? He's not a villain, he's the family's open wound. But if Jason represents what happens when Batman's methods break down, the next Robin represents what happens when they actually work perfectly. Tim Drake. Every other Robin got pulled into this life. Dick watched his parents die. Jason was a street kid Bruce felt sorry for. Tim Drake? Tim applied for the job. As a child, he was in the audience the night the Flying Graysons fell. Years later, he's watching news footage and recognizes Dick Grayson's signature quadruple somersault. From that single observation, he reverse engineers Batman's entire identity. He's like 9 years old, which is, not ideal for Bruce's operational security. But here's what makes Tim different. He doesn't need saving. He has living parents, a stable home. He tracks down Dick Grayson and essentially presents a thesis statement. Batman is spiraling without a Robin, and I'm the logical candidate. He wasn't chosen, he chose, and the brain backs it up. Tim approaches everything like a chess player 5 moves ahead. Batman himself has admitted in canon that Tim is the best tactician among all the Robins. Bruce Wayne, the guy who plans contingencies for his contingencies, looked at this teenager and thought he's better at this than me. I don't know what to tell you, but if Tim earned his spot through sheer intellect, the next member fought for hers through something entirely different: stubbornness. Stephanie Brown. Nobody wanted Stephanie Brown in the Bat family, and she showed up anyway. She first appeared in Detective Comics #648 back in 1992, the daughter of Cluemaster, a D-list Batman villain whose whole deal was leaving puzzle clues at crime scenes. Stephanie's response to finding out her dad was a criminal was to sew a homemade costume together and start sabotaging his plans. No training, no resources, no invitation. Just a teenager with a sewing machine and a grudge. Batman and Robin treated her like a liability, which, to be fair, she kinda was. But she kept showing up, kept getting better. Eventually earned enough grudging respect to briefly hold the Robin mantle itself. Then Batman fired her for disobedience. Then War Games happened, everything went catastrophically wrong, and Stephanie was believed dead. Cool, add that to the list. But she came back, because that's what she does. She later became Batgirl, succeeding Cassandra Cain, and headlined a solo series celebrated for its humor and heart. The whole run leaned into what makes her different. She's not a genius detective, not a trained assassin, not a billionaire's ward. She's the one who fails, learns, and gets back up every single time. Stephanie Brown is the Bat family's proof that stubbornness counts as a superpower, and fans are fiercely protective of her for exactly that reason. But speaking of people nobody could stop, let's talk about someone who was literally raised to be the perfect weapon: Cassandra Cain. Most Bat family members chose this life. Cassandra Cain was built for it before she could even speak. Her father, David Cain, one of the world's deadliest assassins, and her mother, Lady Shiva, arguably the deadliest, conceived her as an experiment. The goal: create the perfect living weapon. Here's where it gets dark. David Cain raised Cassandra without language. No words, no reading, nothing. He trained her to read body language as her entire method of communication, rewiring her brain so physical movement became her native tongue. She could read a person's intentions through micro-movements the way you or I read a sentence on a page. At 8 years old, she performed her first kill. And because of her body-reading abilities, she didn't just watch her victim die. She felt it. Every flicker of terror, every spasm of pain, translated directly through the same system that made her a perfect fighter. So she ran, lived on the streets until she found her way to Gotham during No Man's Land. Batman took her in, and she became the third Batgirl. She's since operated as Black Bat and Orphan. But here's what makes Cassandra genuinely terrifying. She reads your combat intentions before you consciously commit to them. Arguably the most dangerous hand-to-hand fighter in the entire Bat family, including Bruce. A weapon that chose to be a person instead. But if Cassandra represents a weapon that rejected its purpose, the next member rejected something else entirely. The system itself. Kate Kane. Most Bat family members get recruited, saved, adopted, trained, folded into Bruce's operation. Kate Kane walked into this life on her own terms, wearing his symbol, sharing his blood, and told him flatly that she doesn't work for him. Here's the thing about Kate. She's Bruce's cousin, which means she's got the wealth, the family trauma, and the Gotham legacy baked in from birth. She lost her mother and twin sister in a terrorist attack as a child. She channeled that grief into a military career, attended West Point, excelled at it, then got expelled under Don't Ask, Don't Tell because she refused to lie about being gay. That's not backstory decoration. The institution she believed in told her she wasn't welcome unless she pretended to be someone else. She said no. That specific act of choosing integrity over belonging is what eventually turns her into Batwoman. Her father supports her operationally. Her methods are military precise. She maintains her own command structure, her own mission parameters, her own rules of engagement, Bruce can suggest. He cannot order. She's openly lesbian, Jewish, a former military officer, and she wields that bat symbol as an equal, not a subordinate. Kate proves the bat doesn't belong to Bruce. It belongs to anyone with the conviction to carry it. But if Kate refuses to be one of Bruce's soldiers, his actual biological son was literally raised to be one. Just not for him. Damian Wayne, every other Robin, came to Bruce from the outside. Damian Wayne was engineered from the inside out, built to be the perfect weapon by Bruce's worst enemies, and then dropped on his doorstep like a grenade with a birth certificate. Damian is the biological son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul, raised from birth by the League of Assassins. By 10 years old, he'd mastered more martial arts than most adults learn exist and had already taken lives without hesitation. He arrived in Gotham arrogant, violent, and absolutely certain every previous Robin was beneath him. His first major interaction with Tim Drake? Nearly killing him to claim the mantle, which is, not ideal. Here's where it gets interesting. Grant Morrison, who created him in 2006, originally planned to kill Damian off within 4 issues. But Morrison recognized something magnetic in the concept and kept him alive, eventually building years of Batman storytelling around his development. A throwaway character became the emotional backbone of an entire saga. Under Dick Grayson's mentorship, he transformed from an insufferable brat into a genuine hero. His death at the hands of the Heretic, an adult clone of himself, hit harder than anyone expected, literally killed by a dark reflection of what he could have become without the Bat family's influence. Nature versus nurture, answered in the most brutal way possible. But if Damian represents legacy through blood, the next member proves you don't need Wayne DNA to earn your place. Duke Thomas. Every single member of the Bat family before Duke Thomas follows a template. Get adopted or recruited by Bruce, put on a costume, fight crime at night. Duke looked at that template and said, no thanks. He came up through the We Are Robin movement, a decentralized collective where Gotham teenagers just took the Robin symbol for themselves. No billionaire mentor required. Just kids deciding that if Batman wouldn't save their neighborhoods, they'd do it themselves. Duke emerged as one of its strongest leaders, and eventually, Bruce noticed. But here's what makes Duke different from literally everyone else on this list. He didn't become Robin. He became the Signal, Gotham's first daytime protector. Batman owns the night, Duke owns the day. That's not a sidekick. That's an expansion of territory. And then there's the superpowers. Duke is a metahuman with photokinetic abilities, meaning he can manipulate light and darkness, linked to nth metal traces in his bloodstream. The Bat family's first major powered member with a sustained presence. No Kryptonian DNA, no magic ring. Just a kid from Gotham whose genetics unlocked something extraordinary. His parents were driven insane by Joker toxins. He built himself from nothing, through a grassroots movement, into something Bruce Wayne's legacy had never seen before. And that might be the most important thing Duke represents. The Bat symbol started as one man's response to tragedy, but it's grown. It belongs to the whole city now. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.